in this case right here, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the whole numbers together, or the integers. So we're going to go, that's not an integer. We're going to multiply the numbers together. So 4 times 4 times 2.2 is 8.8 times 10 to the 15th, because we add the exponents together, and that would be our solution there. So you multiply the numbers together, add the exponents. Right, Carter? Okay? Any questions on that, or is that pretty easy? Super easy. Okay. The harder thing happens is when we get something like this. So if we have 3 times 10 to the third times 4.7 times 10 to the negative 7th. So once again, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply the numbers together. And I'm going to need a little bit of help here. Might be 14.1, but 3 times 4.7. I think it's 14.1. And then we add the exponents together to get this. But we have an issue here. Someone raise your hand and tell me what the issue is with that answer. Nathan?
Did you...
Jacob?
You messed that up, man.
I know what it is. Okay, go.
It's 1 to 1.41.
Okay, so there is an issue here. In order for it to be in scientific notation, the decimal has to come after the first number, right? So technically in this case, we have to move the decimal from here to here to here. But anytime you move the decimal to the left, you add an exponent. Okay, so this answer is technically 10 to the negative third. So it's 1.41 times 10 to the negative third. Dom?
Does this have to have a positive exponent or
No, no. So these ones can have negative exponents because scientific notation can, right? Because technically this is rewritten like that, right? We won't write it like this, but scientific notation can have negative exponents because it's actually abbreviating a number. It's when variables and other numbers have scientific. But even then, like if you think about it, 2 raised to the negative 2 is just 1 over 4, right? So we have to get rid of them. Technically, we're getting rid of it when we write it out in standard form. Okay, so let's do another one here. You guys are going to help me. Becca, give me a number. 3. Give me a number. 4 times 10. Give me a number, JR. Negative 4. So 3.4 times 10 to the 4. Joe, number. 5 times 10. Spencer? To the 4th, huh? That's not going to help us. We got to get bigger. Let's go negative 6. Okay, I want you guys to do that one on your own. Go.
Wait, what?
Yeah, go. You're good. Use your calculator. 17.
Okay, so you have to do this.
what would happen if you did 4? And then
It would just cancel it out. It wouldn't have an exponent. It'd be z. So look, if this happened to be a positive 4 and you add them together, you get 10 raised to the 0. What's anything raised to the 0?
1.
So technically our answer would then just be, it'd be 17, but in scientific notation would be 1.7 times 10 to the first. Yeah. You never would. But for this assignment, yeah. Okay. So we're going to multiply 3.4 times 5 to get 17 times 10. Because you're multiplying, we're going to add the exponents to get negative 10. Now, this can't be our answer because technically right now the decimal is right here, so we have to move the decimal back to get 1.7 times 10 to the negative 9th. Who got it right? Raise your hand. Good. JR, what happened, brother? Okay, So this is a really great question. Hey, there's too much talking going on. It needs to be quiet. Okay, if we happen to have this problem, like you guys set up the very first time, but I changed it. If we happen to have that right there, when we multiply these together, we get technically that, right? Well, anything raised to the zeros once, so technically this is 17 times 1, which is 17. Which then, if we had to write it in scientific notation, which you absolutely never would unless the lesson had you, would technically be that, right? Which, if you ever wrote 1.7 times 10 to the first, everybody in their ballpark would hit you, okay? All right, you just write 17. Okay? All right, so that's multiplying. Any questions? Okay, let's start dividing. So if we divide exponents, what do we do to them? We subtract them. Carter, strike 2. I don't care. You're turned around and you're involved. Okay, so when we divide exponents, we subtract them, right? So anytime we divide exponents, we subtract them. But just like before, where we had to multiply these numbers when we were multiplying them, now we're going to divide them. So this is going to end up being 1.25 times 10 to the fourth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 5 divided by 4 is 1.25.
Also, you have to put it in decimal form?
Yep, anytime scientific notation is there, it needs to be in a decimal, right? So you don't want like 5/4 because, Brent, this is a good question. If it was a fraction, you couldn't move the decimal, right? It needs to be in decimal form anytime it's scientific notation. So we're dividing the whole number, subtracting the exponents, right? So if I happen to have something like, let's go 82 times 10 to the negative fourth over 2 times 10 to the negative third. What we're going to do first is we're going to divide them. So 82 divided by 2, which is 41. And then when you subtract them, negative 4 minus a negative 3, which is negative 1, right?
Yes.
Now this is very important. Right now the decimal is currently right here, correct?
Wait, so it's just 1.
So when we move, so this one right here, when we move the decimal back a place to the left, it would just give you 1, so this is technically 41, which that's a bad problem. I just created, but let's go back here so Mr. Glazer doesn't quit. It is 4.1 times 1 to the 1. Ignore it. Hey, this problem never happened. All right, back to Mr. Glazer not making up the problem so he doesn't get weird answers. Here we go. 7.2 times 10 to the negative third over 8 times 10 to the negative sixth. All right. So the very first thing is we're going to divide the numbers together. So everyone help me out. What's 7.2 divided by 8?
It's going to be...
What is it? 0.9 times 10. And then we have a negative 3 minus a negative 6, which is 3. Okay. So we're there right now. Now we got to move the decimal after the first number. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to move the decimal from here to there. If you move the decimal to the right, you're going to subtract an exponent. So if you move the decimal to the right, you subtract an exponent. If you move the decimal to the left, you're going to add an exponent. So in this case, we moved it to the right. So we have to then subtract an exponent, and we have our solution right there. So if you move it to the right, you subtract an exponent. If you move it to the left, you add an exponent. Okay, I want you guys to try this one on your own. Let's just see if we can get it. 1.8 times 10 to the negative 8 over 6 times 10 to the third. Try that one on your own.
Wait, so because
You move the decimal to the right, you subtract an exponent. You move it to the left, you add an exponent. Okay, Carter, what's 1.8 divided by 6?
Oh, point three.
0.3?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think that's what I got.
Did everyone else get 0.3? Okay, Carter, times 10 to the what?
Oh, 10 to the. No.
Negative 11. How did you get negative 11, Carter?
No.
Negative 8 subtract 3 gives us negative 11. Okay, Carter, what do we do next? This isn't our answer. This is 95% our answer, but we got to do something. You're going the wrong way. Yeah. We have to move the decimal after the first number, which changes that to a 3. But anytime you move the decimal to the right, you have to subtract an exponent. So this becomes negative 12. Who got it right? Raise your hand. Did Carter just raise his hand? Hey, are we okay? Can we do this okay on our own?